California passes law mandating venture capital firms release investments diversity information. Now, this could backfire on them, I believe. I hope that they all release their diversity information and then all the investors move their money to the least diverse ones because they're the most likely to make money. That's what I think will be the funniest result of this. Last night, California Emperor Gavin Newsom signed into law Senate Bill 54, which requires venture capital firms in the state to annually report diversity of the founders they are backing. This is the United States' first piece of legislation that aims to increase diversity within venture capital landscape. The law will go into effect March 1st, current year +1. Now, as the entire rest of the world is moving away from this scam, California is hitting the gas. So all this is going to do is make it so these venture capital companies leave the state. They will go somewhere else. Once the law goes into effect, any venture capital firm operating in the state, that includes venture capital firms headquartered in California, have operations in the state, have invested in companies that operate in or are based in the state, or have received investments from California residents, must report. Wow, how are you going to enforce that? If I was fully based in a completely different state and then one Californian invested in the company, now I'm suddenly beholden to your laws? How about fuck no? Or better yet, they're just going to have to ban Californians from investing. For example, the race of people they back, as well as the disability status and sexual orientation, the bill requires firms to collect and release their diversity data to the public. Yeah, I really don't think this is going to work out the way they expect. Because, like I just said, if it becomes too onerous, companies are just going to leave the state. Alternatively, though, people are so sick and tired of this woke garbage that if companies are forced to reveal, who they invest in, I seriously believe a lot of investors will specifically go out of their way to avoid ESG investments. The information collected will be aggregated before being publicly released, similar to how the state handles information about wages. Those who fail to comply with the new law may face a penalty as decided by the courts. This bill resonates deeply with my commitment to advance equity and provide a greater economic empowerment of historically underrepresented communities, Newsom wrote in his letter signing the bill. Yeah, good job. All you're going to do is make sure you destroy their futures. Congratulations. SB 54 will be added to existing business and professional code as Chapter 40, Fair Investment Practices by Investment Advisors, and will also amend the government code in relation to professions. Will it cover the oldest profession, though? Tech policy advocates are thrilled the bill has been passed. Funding to startups led by whammons or POCs has never risen more than 5% in any given year. And there's hope that this bill will provide more transparency in how venture capital dollars are allocated, especially given that California is one of the biggest markets for venture capital investments. No, this is fine. You know what? Investors have ruined every single one of my hobbies that has gone mainstream. So if they get to now, if they're forced to throw their money away in the name of diversity, that's fine with me. It'll make things easier for me. With Emperor Newsom signing of SB 54, California is extending its nation-leading efforts to expand equity by bringing transparency into venture capital investment decisions with the goal of helping more whammons and POCs. Acts as the VC lifeline upon which entrepreneurs depend. Senator Nancy Skinner responds to the bill. Wow. The only ones affected by this are the companies that, like this person said, rely on investors, rely on venture capital. They are the only ones that are going to be really affected by this. Those that are able to make do without investors, oh man, they are going to have such a huge advantage. Or better yet, companies that stay, completely private. This transparency will empower whammons and POCs to make informed decisions about where to invest their valuable time, she added. Yeah, same applies to anyone else. Hey, do I want a return on my investment? Well, I better avoid all this ESG shit. Now, often we dedicate a significant portion of our time to pitching to fund managers who express interest in opportunities, but whose firms did not ultimately provide funding to individuals in our demographic groups. Allison Byers, tech policy advocate, helped ideate the bill, told TechCrunch that she wants this law to encourage funds to allocate more venture capital dollars to whammons and POC. She also hopes this law increases awareness of funding discrepancies and reveals the funds that are supporting diverse founders and those that are not. Yes, because those that are not are the ones that are going to end up winning in the free market as ESG collapses. Please, I too would like to know which of these investment funds are more concerned with, ESG than with giving me a return on my investment. Please. Now, before the bill is passed in the Senate, its critics, including the National Venture Capital Association and TechNet, a trade association that hails itself as a bipartisan network of tech CEOs and senior executives, worried the bill could harm venture VCs. Fine. They've done so much damage to all of my hobbies. Oh, if they have to be harmed, what's the big deal? Nothing of value will be lost. Now, the NVCA wrote a letter to Skinner that the bill produced misleading, counterproductive data that would hurt the cause of diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts while creating unnecessary costs and risks for California venture capitalists. Leave California, problem solved. TechNet, meanwhile, worried that VC firms would face potential liabilities resulting from the release of sensitive information to the state civil rights department. It could cause a few lawsuits, yes. That's a possibility. Man, but really, the saddest thing about all of this is like they're low-key admitting that modern day corpos can't function without investors because they don't have customers anymore. They chased customers away. So if they also lose their investors, they'll end up with nothing. That's what they're scared of. Like, God forbid companies have to go back to relying on customers to get their money. We can't allow that. TechNet and NVCA did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Both organizations, however, said that they supported the notion of boosting diversity within venture capital. I mean, it kind of is a zero-sum game in a lot of ways. So you got to have some losers too, right? In Emperor Newsom's signing letter, he said the bill's language needed to be cleaned up, saying that there were a few problematic provisions and unrealistic timelines. The cleanup will be part of the current year +1+2 governor's budget to ensure important policy to improve diversity of venture capital investments can be amended properly. Byer said the next goal is to help push forth matching bills through the nation. We are already in discussions with leaders in other states and countries who are interested in enacting similar policies. Please go ahead. Let's do it. As someone who plans to make my own stuff primarily relying on customers, if my competition wants to tie themselves to investors and go down this route, please make this a nationwide law. Go ahead. You want to make things easier for me? I'm not going to stop you. Never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake and all that. So go ahead.